Stephen Bedard's time here at the Gaillard Center is coming to an end this June. I talked one-on-one with him about his legacy here and what's new and what's now here at the Gaillard Center for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Stephen Bedard, welcome back to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, thank you very much, Quinn. I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Obviously, you are the president and CEO of the Gaillard Center. And let me just jump right into it, Steve, because I want to ask you this. What is the important reflection point in regards to the state of the Gaillard Center right now?
Well, as you know, we, as pretty much everybody in the world, have been struggling with the pandemic, and with the strong support of the federal government and the city, we have continued to operate with a core staff. We had to unfortunately let some people go, but we have a core group of people. We have done a lot of virtual programming. One of the things I'm most proud of over the last 5 years is our growth in our educational program. And right now, obviously, that's not possible to do in person. So we've developed a lot of educational resources, which are available to the general public. They're online and on our website. But Dance, Laugh, and Learn, we got a series called Setting the Stage, which talks about some of the STEM type related issues with a theater that's been very popular. And then for our community programming, you may know we've had a series of African Americans be interviewed by both our artist in residence emeritus Charleston Singleton and our artist emeritus Marcus Amaker, and that's a program called Raising the Volume, right. And we have that online. So we've been doing all that, working hard with the Charleston Symphony Orchestra. They've done a phenomenal job of testing and keeping their people tested and safe. And so we have continued to do their programs. We do normally a Friday night, a Saturday at matinee, and a Saturday night, socially distanced, normally around 300 or less people. And so it isn't that we're sitting there dark. We're doing a lot of things and we're really busy, but it is a challenging time. And I mean, reflecting back, and about a year ago this time, we were preparing for the Democratic debate that was going to be held, CBS News held in the Gaillard. We followed that on by 2 sold out shows of the country western or the country group, Little Big Town. And then right before we closed for the pandemic or came way down, we had a sellout crowd with a symphony with Ranky Tank. Oh, yes. So it was phenomenal. We were going on all 8 cylinders, and then all of a sudden we had to hit the brakes, and we've just kind of been moving forward from that point on. So hopefully things will pick up. We're talking to Spoleto. I think Spoleto still plans on having their festival, and we're going to have a socially distanced events in the performance hall, and they do things all around town, so not just in the performance hall, but we're talking to Nigel Rudden and his team. And I would think after that, hopefully, as we look at our fall programming and on, the community will be in a different place, vaccination wise and pandemic wise. And we're very hopeful that for us as the Gaillard Center, self-produced shows and those types of things, we could go to a larger show starting sometime in the fall.
How do you identify the assets and value that the Gaillard Center has created over the past couple of years?
Well, I think the assets of value to the community is number one. I think we've developed a very, very strong programming. I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today, as a matter of fact. I think, our programming kind of runs the gamut. We had Renee Fleming, Joshua Bell, Long, and all, as I mentioned, we're going to have Winston Marsalis and a smaller part of the Lincoln Center Jazz, not the entire ensemble, but we're going to have them in April for a socially distanced performance. That will be the third time they've been here. So we were really big on jazz. We've hosted the Low Country Jazz Festival, which Dr. Bell, founded, and it supports minority outreach in the healthcare professions. And we've been very successful with that the last few years. And it's a great partnership that we have with him and the gentleman that produces that for him, Tony Clark. And so, I think I judge, number one, our programming. Number two, I'd say our outreach in the area of education, as I already mentioned.
Right.
Up until this last year, my 4 previous years, we had a total of 90,000 students in the building, which I'm very proud of. For different types of performances, just they range the gamut, including the 2 young African American that form black violin, one with the viola and one with the violin.
Right.
And students just love them. So we had Kebmo doing performances for the students. So very proud of our educational program. And then we have these community outreach programs that, things like Renee Fleming, when she was here, she gave a lecture on music in the brain. She does a lot of work with the National Academy of Health. And so we had about 200 people attend that. And as I mentioned, we're doing Raising the Volume this year virtually, which we think is a great thing. And I guess the last thing I would say is I think we got an unbelievable staff. And I think when I leave in June, my successor comes in, she or he is going to inherit a tremendous group of people that are very dedicated to the community and very, very dedicated to making our performances and making our events in the ballroom and the like special for the people that are able to have them.
Let me ask you this, Steve. What are those consumer habits and choices right now, and how does that actually impact the Gaillard Center right now?
Well, again, I don't want to keep referring back to the pandemic, but everything in the world right now is COVID-19 and the pandemic. We do have the approval from DHEC to have events up in our ballrooms up to 250 people.
Wow.
We haven't had any events even close to that amount. We want to be as safe as we can possibly be. But we do have some people that have waited a long time to get married or to do different things. And so we have hosted a few weddings of 100 people or less, masked, as safe as we could make those things. So we do have those type of events, but we don't have the big corporate events that we had before. I think they're on the books. I think they'll come back again in the fall and winter of 21 and 22 in early 22. And then on the performance hall side, all of our performances are both the symphony and the ones that I'm referring to, such as the Winsome Marsalis. We do those both in person and virtually, and we have spaced out the area in the performance hall. We've blocked off seats. So the maximum attendance that we can have for an event is somewhere around 370 people in an 1,800 seat performance hall. And so the performances that we've had, including the Charleston Symphony Orchestra, we have had nothing but good feelings from people that have come, that they felt safe.
Yes.
And that's good. But as you know, some people are just not comfortable doing that right now. So we do offer virtual options, as does the symphony. And as I said, hopefully over time, we'll get to a place where people are going to be feeling comfortable getting back together again. I think there's certainly a lot of pent-up demand for that. And hopefully we can provide some great programming when that time comes.
And you're the money man. You know how to make money and save money and conserve money. How do you exercise fiscal management inside the midst of COVID?
Well, as I mentioned, the first thing we did when we had to kind of bring everything down to close to a halt. At the beginning, it was pretty much a complete halt. We had really tough choices looking at our team, and we had to cut somewhere between a third to a half of our people, including we have a lot of part-time people that work events. And so our total full-time equivalent count would be like about 55% of what it was initially. And we did that very strategically, trying to make sure that as we came back with a core group of professionals that could really bring the center back online in a good fashion. And what's allowed us to continue to do that, to be quite honest with you, is some of the relief that we've gotten through the CARES Act from the federal government and the continued support of the city of Charleston. And so we're very grateful to both of those. Some of our virtual programming, such as Raising the Volume, is supported primarily by Blue Cross Blue Shields. Also, we got some support from the Charleston Water System, and we got various different sponsors for our Setting the Stage program, which is we're getting great results with that in schools. We're almost in Georgia. We're at the bottom of South Carolina. People using it. It's online. They can use it. Has lesson plans that meet all the criteria for certain South Carolina state standards. And interestingly enough, we got one of our sponsors requested us to do lesson plans that met the North Carolina state standards, and the program is also being used in North Carolina right now.
Wow. And let me ask you a simple question, Steve. How does your reserve fund look right now?
We've been very, very frugal in everything that we've done, as I indicated. And to be honest with you, we were early on in the pandemic, we were looking at how many years of reserve, how many months of reserve we had,
right,
whether or not we were going to need to cut back further. And I'm proud to report that due to the fact that the team has been so frugal, particularly in the operating area, cutting back in the different types of things that we do while we're still maintaining the facility, we're pretty much right where we were. So we haven't lost anything. We haven't gained anything. We were on pace, as I indicated at the end of February. We were on pace to have a year where we would have made $1 million. And our year ended June 30th of last year. And so March, April, May, and June were all part of the pandemic. And we ended up with a positive of a couple $100,000. So we were able to eat down into some of that money that we had earned during the earlier part of the year. And, we're making use of our people to do some of this virtual programming. And with the sponsorships that we're getting, we're able to keep our reserve in a pretty healthy position.
And how do you increase the annual and contributing revenue of the center?
Well, I think in combination with the Gaillard Performance Hall Foundation, which is a foundation that existed when the building was renovated. They were responsible for the $71 million of private fundraising to go with the $71 million that the city put in for the renovation. So we're working hand in glove with them. They primarily do donor outreach, endowment, those types of things. Right. And we primarily do foundation grants, sponsorships, and things like that. So a combination of those two things as we move forward and we get back into some semblance of normal. And I think it will be a curve that will go up. I mean, we're just not going to flip the switch and on day one, we're going to be where we were, when we had those sellout crowds right before the pandemic started. But I do think, within a 6-month period or so, we should be in a good shape. And I know there's a search committee right now interviewing candidates, and I'm sure they're going to find somebody great to take my place. And I think they'll inherit a great staff, good financial position, and hopefully they'll hit the deck running, and I'll help them in any way I can. And we'll move forward and be even better for the community than we've been to this point.
And what community partnerships do you want to build on?
Well, basically, we want to build on our partnerships that we have with the school districts and our teachers. That's why we continue to do programming for the schools, because we didn't want to lose that connection that we had. As I said, with 90,000 students, we had a lot of very loyal teachers that have been with us for a good long time. And obviously, it's not the same thing as paying for the buses and getting the students in here and having them have an opportunity to be in a performance hall and see a performance. But it is still that connectivity with our technical crew, talking about the various things in a theater that we have in Setting the Stage, which has been very, very popular. And we also are going to do a couple of virtual programs that we're going to put out into the schools at the end of, towards this last part of the school year. And that's starting very soon. Next week, we'll have a virtual program that will be available to be played in the schools with a lesson plan, and also anybody that would want to go on our website and see it. But it is a virtual program about Harriet Tubman, which goes with Black History Month.
And, I wanted to ask you this too, Mr. Bedard, but how are you adopting a new paradigm to stay competitive?
Well, everybody is, I think the Gaillard Center has kind of a place to fit in the community. I guess what most people consider our competition would be the Performing Arts Center in North Charleston. Okay. Obviously, we're not competing with the Coliseum, or we certainly won't compete with the new Volvo Car Stadium after the renovation, when they have a capacity of 9,000 or 10,000 and the Coliseum has 13 plus, and we're at 1,800. But I think, working with, we're actually much less competitive than you would think. There are different shows that we compete over, like say somebody like Nora Jones or somebody like that would want, North Charleston would want them, we would want them. They're probably too big for the music hall. The music hall has a whole group of great programming that they normally do in good times. So what we try and do is we try and work collaboratively as much as we can with those groups, and we kind of own certain space. I mean, we own classical programming. They're not. There is a pops group up in North Charleston, but they really don't do classical programming. So with our partners, the Charleston Symphony Orchestra, we do that. Obviously, we host a lot of the Spoleto events. In a normal year, we would have SeaWee. Unfortunately, not this year. As I mentioned, we've really got a great partnership going with the Low Country Jazz Festival, which brings a lot of people in from all over kind of the Southeast and the region. And Dr. Bell and his team do a great job. And we're just so happy to have them be part of what we do. So, we're trying to maintain all those types of partnerships and stay in our swim lane, if you will. We all have different lanes, and every once in a while we're going to compete with Frank and his folks up in North Charleston. But for the most part, we work collaboratively. I mean, we're not going to have Disney on Ice. We don't have an ice rink, and we don't. And they had that, I think, socially distanced last weekend up in Coliseum. So there's a lot of things that they could do that we can't, and there's some things that we could do that they can't. And then there's some things in the middle where we are fairly competitive with them on, but we try and keep a good, healthy, strong relationship with those groups.
How do you expand upon the diversity and accessibility to the Gaillard's programming?
Yes, sir. That's one of the things that we continue to work on. We're developing some community. We did some of this early on in the pandemic. We had Low Country Listens, right, which was a lot of local artists that we we were able to engage, including Daniel D., a graduate of the School of the Arts, a great young African-American musician. And we're talking about developing stronger community programming where we can continue to engage the community. In addition to that, we, in our normal programming, let's say if we were to have Winston Marsalis and the Lincoln Center Jazz, we at full capacity, we would block off some seats. We have an organization we work with that provides seats to veterans and military families. And we also try very hard through our community connections with the schools, with the principals and the schools to get a diverse audience in to see different types of programming. So, and I mean, we've done all sorts of creative things with the help of a sponsorship of one of our donors last year when Kebmo was here. We brought in a large group of the students from the Charleston Jazz Academy up in North Charleston, and we hosted a dinner for them. And then, actually started off with Kebmo giving an after rehearsal discussion with the young people. There was about 100 young people and their parents. And he's a just unbelievable guy. And he basically talked, because these were primarily jazz students, and he was talking about the connection from classical music to jazz music to blues, which is kind of his thing, and it was really interesting. Then they had the hosted dinner that I speak of, and then they were able to be our guests due to the generosity of the donor, and they attended the actual performance. So we try and do that. It's like an airline when it takes off and it has empty seats. It really doesn't cost you very much to have an outreach program and to get some of these some diverse audience in to see some of this different types of programming.
Stepping down, you said this quote, "This has been a wonderful job for me, a real honor and privilege to help make the magnificent Charleston Gaillard Center become a place where lives through the Charleston region are being enriched throughout and unforgettable experiences." That is, what experience is still in your mind today?
What
is that one experience that still plays in your mind today?
I think the one experience that plays in my mind that I recall, and it has a positive and a negative not negative, but a connotation that I'll speak of here in a minute, was when we had Black Violin come in, and they did a sold out performance that night. But they also have a very strong outreach program to young people and education. So we had about 1,600 students in the center during the day, and Black Violin did a performance for them, and it was just an unbelievable experience. The kids had just a wonderful time, and the performers were just so great. The one thing I think that we kind of have taken from kind of on a side that we took from that is we saw some of the students. Black Violin they're very good. They play kind of classic, upbeat classical music with a viola and a violin, but it's pretty loud. And we saw that some of the children were having a little problem with the amount of volume. And so what we basically did is we went out and we found a program. It's called Culture City. And we're one of two places in Charleston that uses Culture City, the other one being the aquarium. And you receive training. All our ushers, 300 plus ushers, had to receive training, and all our staff receive training. You get some kits, weighted blankets, and those types of things. And when somebody's having some kind of problem, autistic young people or just autistic people in general, and also we've had a fair number of veterans that are suffering from some PTSD problems that have also used this service. And we've actually become one of the places that Culture City brags about, which we're very proud of. And so that wonderful experience of having the two musicians for Black Violin and watching all the kids have such a wonderful time, watching a few of them struggle. Our director of education saw that. She went out and she found this program, and we implemented it, and it's been a very much a great success. And to be honest with you, you don't know what you don't know, right? And there's a lot of parents and a lot of young people that struggle with this, and knowing that we have Culture City and we have quiet spaces and we have the things that we need to have really allows the parents of these challenge, these kids that have a challenge that through no fault of their own, to come to the performances and enjoy things in a way that they might not be able to do otherwise. So that's one thing that just sticks out at me. I could go on and on and on, but that would be one that I would bring up. I mean, it was cool having the Democrat debate and having CBS and having the mobile studio out front of the building for CBS today and all of that. But the Black Violin experience is the one that sticks in the top of my head.
And although you're stepping down in June, what do you want your legacy to be like 10 years from now?
Well, I just hope that 10 years from now that what my legacy will be a new sharp CEO, she or he that they bring in has a great team of staff, and the things that that were started a little bit before me that we built on in education and in programming and sound fiscal policies, that they'll still be there, and the Gaillard Center will be even more successful in reaching out and serving the community. So if those things happen, that'll be my legacy, because I'll have been part of setting the foundation for that.
And I want to say congratulations on becoming one of the 2020 Charleston Business Magazine's 50 most influential people in Charleston, most influential. So congratulations on that as well.
Yes, thank you. Somebody made a mistake there, but
oh, you deserve it.
Everybody, there was a lot of great people in there, but I don't know how I got it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Stephen Bedard, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you very much, Quintin.
Thank you.
Doing all the great things you do for the community.
Oh, I definitely will. Oh, you're welcome anytime.